Well, Paul, in our ongoing chats that we've got, and people can watch these different separate video chats about the AFI Life Achievement, Kennedy Center honors, honorary Oscars. This one is about the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globes. And last year they threw us a real shocker with Woody Allen because you and I were under the impression that you have to agree to attend like you do on all of these other Life Achievement Awards.
Yeah, and it's sort of interesting because you sort of think, did he fudge it a bit and say, maybe I'll come, maybe I won't? I was just surprised that for a man who the only time he ever appeared at the Oscars was after the September 11th attacks, just to thank the Academy on behalf of New York. I was fascinated that he accepted this honor. You wonder, did he say yes thinking it would give a little boost to Blue Jasmine? You know, at that point, we were all talking about Cate Blanchett, and so, but you know, this one, the Hollywood Foreign Press, less than 100 people, they just kind of do their own thing on whether it's where they put movies, which categories they put them in, who they honor. I mean, you go back a couple of years to when The Tourist got a bunch of nominations, and really, if anyone wants to look at a Razzie contender that was up for Globes, that would be The Tourist. So I just don't know where do you even start, Chris, to try and figure out?
I would be a 99.5% certainty that whoever it is going to be somebody that shows up.
Right.
I think it's somebody that we would look at a list and go, okay, they would be there. Because I think like you did. I mean, I remember when we even wrote the stories. First of all, the announcement came out 2 months before it ever is announced, which is early November, and it's even on their calendar as the day they're going to announce it, as an early date in November, which made us even more think, okay, they've lined up Woody Allen. He's actually going to be there, and they needed to get the word out before it got out on its own.
Right, right.
So anyway, that was and that's why we didn't mention Woody Allen on the Kennedy Center or the AFI videos if you watch those, because it's 100% requirement there. They're not going to invite you unless you're coming.
Right. So who do you think would this one tends to, unlike AFI, I mean, they've honored a number of women. It's nowhere near parity. You know, Jodie Foster was the first woman actually in a long time. I'm actually now looking over just.
I almost think we helped that because Tom, I know, and then I wrote an article, and I think maybe you did, and over the past 3-4 years about how long it had been since an African American and how long it had been since a woman, and lo and behold, in the last 3 years, you've had one of each. Not that that's enough to overcome it, but it's like they realized internally we've got a problem here.
Yeah, actually I'm realize now I sort of misspoke, because prior to Jodie Foster, it had been back in 2000 with Barbra Streisand.
That's right.
Last time there'd been a woman. Now there'd been a run of, I guess what I was looking at the list prior to that, Shirley MacLaine, Sophia Loren, Lauren Bacall, Audrey Hepburn, Doris Day. They had a long run there of almost going back and forth between a man and a woman. So one does wonder, and this is the group that we have to think about as the more current constituency of the HFPA. So lots of men, being recognized, but white men, not African American men, not women. So who would you be least surprised to hear announced?
This one's going to be tough this time because for up until Jodie Foster, every year I was predicting an actress just because I thought, hey, they know what's going on here. They'll definitely. And now that she was just 2 years ago, not that they wouldn't go right back to an actress. What I'm saying is, and with Woody Allen last year, I don't think there's any feeling in my mind that it's going to be an actress versus an actor.
Gotcha.
If it's an actress, just like we said on the AFI, the most logical to me would be Julie Andrews.
Yep.
I could see an Angela Lansbury. For people that are trying to predict this or think about this, it's almost always film related, even though they spend half the evening honoring television. They don't. But because they do honor both, you could see somebody like an Angela Lansbury who's got a very decent film career and a very decent TV career. But I don't know that we've had just a pure TV person in 30, 40 years.
Probably Lucy was the last one, and she had had a film career.
If anybody could do it, though, somebody as beloved as like a Carol Burnett might be selected.
Yes, it would. Wouldn't that be lovely to see her?
And she has come out to present a few times. I've been there a couple of times when she's been there, and never underestimate that in terms of voting, predicting your winners, and never underestimate that. That's how I knew John Voight was winning last year. He comes to their parties every year when he's not nominated.
Right. It is.
Yes. I mean, but a Carol Burnett does come and present. She is a past winner, so I think that's a possibility. Even though you would certainly say she was way more well known for TV than the few films she's done.
Right. I think that Angela Lansbury, having gotten the honorary Oscar last year, not that she's on your list, but Debbie Reynolds, now that she's getting the Screen Actors Guild, they're probably not in the running so much. Jane Fonda, having just gotten the AFI, I think that they do there's a lot of people, when you look, have gotten various ones, but they don't tend to get them that close together. A couple of names pop out. We talked about Mary Tyler Moore for the Kennedy Center. That would be a nice one. Helen Mirren. They love some Helen Mirren. I mean, she gets nominated for everything there.
Everything.
So, yeah, TV and film. So she's Hollywood-ish. I mean, she's married to Taylor Hackford, who's a American film director. I mean, I think they split their time up between California and then a couple of places in Europe. But she's certainly of the community. And she's got.
I don't. Being the Hollywood Foreign Press, I don't think. Unlike like American Film Institute or the Kennedy Center Honors being for American Performing Arts, even though they occasionally pick somebody that's foreign, you definitely see within their structure that you better at least have had an impact on America. Helen Mirren has done that too, but I don't think in their scope of anything they do, they're thinking, it has to be even any kind of an impact on American culture, although they are thinking about how is this going to look on TV.
Right. And they devote quite a big chunk of the ceremony.
That's why I included a Goldie Hawn here. They were one of the first ones to embrace her in her career, and while she might not be, I could see her maybe one day at the Kennedy Center. Her career's not been one that you would call, like you mentioned on somebody else. It's a lot of duds in there too, but she's just so likable and so bubbly, and I think I could see her being honored by the Golden Globes.
Yeah,
I think she's late 60s now, I think.
Yeah, she wouldn't admit that, but yeah, I think she is. She might be getting close to 70. I mean, she hasn't made a picture in about 10 years, but I guess, not surprisingly, the list of men is much more extensive and interesting. I mean, you have this.
Well, before we finish the women, I forgot to put her on my list because typically they don't pick typically, Woody Allen was an exception last year. They wait until you've got a year where you don't really have anything in contention, and maybe especially if you're somebody that's like an obvious choice. But I remember the year Spielberg got chosen, it was like finally a year where he didn't have anything up, didn't have anything in the pipeline to be honored, and that's why I forgot to put her on this list. But Meryl Streep will definitely be honored by this group, and quite honestly, if you look at you look at IMDb, she's always got films in production. It seems like every one of them is a contender every year. I don't see why that she wouldn't be one of those types that they would hold off till waiting for a year where she's not going to have something in contention, because if they look like we look at her career, there's not going to be one of those years.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't even. I think it's one of those ones. Honestly, I thought she'd already gotten it.
She's the most rewarded, if I remember right, from an article I did last year. I think she's got more competitive Golden Globes than anybody.
Yeah, that's right. So, so over on the men's side of things, a couple of names pop out at me. Just thought it would be interesting because the age thing. I mean, they seem to, Jodie Foster at 50, Michael Douglas at 59, Robin Williams 53. They could well give it to somebody in their 50s, and I know that I don't think he's on. Oh, he is on your list. Tom Cruise. That name just popped out at me. Just
I
that's
could look. They're wanting. Again, last year was such an exception with Woody Allen, but listen, even though he wasn't there, it still got a lot of attention. And I'm not even talking about the bad stuff after. I'm talking about, the weeks leading up to, there was, the articles speculating was he coming, and there was articles about his career, and of course Blue Jasmine was out and so forth. But they love the sparkle. They love so a Tom Cruise who gets perennial, nominations quite often. He even got one for The Last Samurai a few years ago.
wow.
Johnny Depp, you mentioned The Tourist. I mean, he's now in his 50s. They nominate him for anything.
Yeah.
I could see either one of those. Absolutely.
I could see, other people on your list. I could see George Lucas, but probably the next year when Star Wars is coming out, the new Star Wars. He's not directing it, but that would make more sense.
And when you said George, I thought you were going to say George Clooney. He's right in that age range.
Yeah, I think I wonder, you see, he seems like somebody that would say not just yet. I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe people are rolling their eyes as I say this. You've got a name on the list that he would be thrilled, John Travolta. I think his time has passed.
They've nominated him a lot for things over the years. And another one of those guys that you see presenting about every other year. So it seems like internally they love him.
But I think that he needs to have yet another comeback. I think he needs something, because he hasn't done a picture of any note in a few years. So I think once he's done that, he would be credible. Tom Cruise, another one that pops out at me on your list is Denzel Washington. Again, we mentioned him for AFI.
It seems like Denzel is about to get one of these three big things. It's not been announced. Yeah. Either he's going to be at the Kennedy Center, the AFI, or the Cecil B. DeMille in the next, let's say, 18 months.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And just to be quite honest, it's not. African American actors and actresses are now quite prevalent, but they're all of those that I'm thinking about are, like in their 30s and 40s, maybe early 50s. They've just gotten these kinds of chances in recent years. There's only a handful of people you can name that put themselves in their current state of career likability and achievement over, say, a 3-decade period, like a Denzel, like a Morgan Freeman. So when one of them suddenly becomes in that right age range, it's like an automatic that they would want to honor them, and they should honor them.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think he's going to be on this circuit quite a bit over the next 3 or 4 years. The one with Denzel, though, if you said you could only have 2 names, if you said you could have 3 names, I would say Meryl Streep, who we already talked about, Denzel Washington, and the other one that just seems like a slam dunk here soon is Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and I'm going to swap out Tom Cruise for Tom Hanks, and those are our predictions.
And he's 58, if I remember correctly, maybe this summer. And my other thinking this particular year, coming off a Woody Allen year where you had a no-show, is I think they're going to go for the sparkle. I think they're going to go for somebody that you go, wow. Because even when Jodie Foster got it, the only thing I heard and thought myself was, what? I mean, not from a career standpoint, because she started when she was like 8 or 9, but just like she just turned 50 this year. It's like you had her on the calendar circled in red for when she turned 50. It just seemed like an odd choice at her age.
Yes, to put it kindly, it was certainly. And again, it's fascinating what must go on inside their minds, that they're not saying not just yet, thank you. And she's not making that many pictures anymore. So, we'll know in a few weeks or months, and we'll reconvene and have a live chat, and everyone can weigh in on it. But certainly, in this chat and the others, let us know what you think in the comments section, in the forum threads, and look forward to seeing how right or wrong we are on these.